So how do we now trigger this toggle meal favorite status method in the favorite meals notifier from inside the meal detail start file? Well, there, as a first step, we also must import the Flutter riverpod package and the Flutter riverpod.dart file and replace stateless widget with consumer widget. Not consumer stateful, but just consumer widget. With that done, the build method here has to change, because here we now get a second argument, a second parameter passed in automatically by riverpod, and that is a parameter of type widgetRef, which is this ref thing which we need for listening to providers. We did not have to adjust the build method in the tabs.dart file, because there we had a state class and we replaced that with consumer state, which made this ref property globally available in this class. Here for the stateless widget, it's different. We don't have such a general ref property. Instead, we have to add it here as a parameter to the build method. But with it added here, we can now use it to call methods from our notifier that is exposed through the provider. For that here, in on pressed on this icon button, we can use ref. And now here in a change listener, so in a function that is passed as a value to on pressed or something similar, you should not use watch, but instead read. To not set up an ongoing listener, because inside of such a function that would be problematic, but instead to just read a value once. Now the value that should be read here is again our provider. So for that we refer to our own package, to the providers folder, and there to the favorites provider Dart file. With that import added here, we can use this favorite meals provider, but now we don't use this value like this, but instead, since this is this special state notifier provider, which we created here, we can access .notifier here. And this gives us access to this notifier class we defined. So to this class here, which of course has this method we want to call. That's why we're accessing this notifier here, because with that done, on the result returned by read, we can call toggle meal favorite status. And to that method, we can pass the meal which is available here in this widget class as a property. And that is how we now trigger this method in our provider from inside of this meal details screen. And that's how we skip this long chain of passing functions around, because now we can trigger the change from exactly the place where it happens. Therefore, we can now also go back to the tabs screen and copy this scaffold logic here and remove this show info message method into this meal details screen. Here, besides triggering this method, we can also now use scaffold messenger to clear snack bars and to show a new snack bar. And here the text I then want to show depends on whether this was added as a provider or not. And to find out whether it was added or not, we can tweak this toggle meal favorite status method in the favorites provider Dart file. And instead of returning nothing, we can return a Boolean here where we maybe return false if the item was removed and true if it was added. With that, we're returning some data from this method. And therefore, in the place where we are calling this method, which is this meal detail screen, we now get this as a result, this information whether it was added or not. And we can then set this text here dynamically by checking was added. And then maybe with a ternary expression, we can define what should be output if it was added and what should alternatively be output if it was removed, basically, as a favorite. So here we could say meal added as a favorite, and then here we say meal removed. Something like this. And with that, we're triggering all these actions from inside the place where they actually occur, which of course is better than what we did before. So with that, if we now save everything, we should be able to navigate to a meal, click this button, and we still get the snack bar here. But now, as I navigate away, I see this here, and I can also remove it, and it's then updated. And this all now works without passing functions or data around, which is of course very convenient and much better than what we had before, because ultimately it leads to a leaner app. And that's the huge advantage of this provider pattern and of using a global state management solution like this one here.